Today's author is me, TG Wolff. Check out my backlist for my full-length mysteries, both on my website and on your favorite digital outlet. There's something there for every mystery lover. I can be found at tgwolff.com. Welcome. Welcome to Mysteries to Die For. I am TG Wolff, and I'm here with Jack, my piano player and producer. This is a podcast where we combine storytelling with original music to put you at the heart of a mystery. All stories are structured to challenge you to beat the detective to the solution. Jack and I perform these live, front to back, no breaks, no fakes, no retakes. Before we get started, a special announcement. Our social media is alive and kicking. Check out our Instagram at Mysteries to Die For, that's all spelled out, and our Facebook at M2D4 Podcast, that's with the numbers, for the pulse of our shows and the happenings. And explore our website, m2d4podcast.com, for links to all of our episodes, including past seasons, and our authors. All right, so the rules for law and order create the boundaries for civil coexistence, and ideally the backdrops for individuals, families, and companies to grow and thrive. Breaking these rules puts civil order at risk. And while murder is the big daddy of crimes, codified ordinances across municipal divisions, counties, states, and countries show the nearly endless ways there are to create mayhem. This season, we put our detective skills to the test. This is Season 8, Anything But Murder. And this is Episode 19, where body snatching is the featured crime. This is Have You Seen This Body? By TG Wolff. You know, at that intro there, Jack, you zigged when I thought you were going to zag.
I zoinked, believe it or not.
You zoinked?
Yup. I zoinked, Scoob.
So what are we doing for our...
We're doing a velocity saxophone.
That's like a velociraptor, but in a saxophone?
Yeah, it's some sort of soprano sax. It says VEL.S sax, which is a soprano. I don't know what the VEL stands for, to be honest with you.
Velociraptor.
That's what I choose. Velociraptor, velocity. I like how with Velociraptor we were just like, so this dinosaur, it's fast, is it? Yeah, it is. You say it has a high
velocity.
Well, you would not believe the name I have for you. And they hit it on the head, I tell you what. Of course, we don't know for a fact it was a fast raptor. We're just assuming, you know. I love that. I love the assumption we make as human beings.
I'm sure there's some science behind it. Probably the size
I
and
know they're
density
not
of
wrong.
the thigh bones.
I know they're not wrong.
We're off topic.
When aren't we?
The story that I have for you all today is from my Bobigny, Louisiana series. So I cannot do a French accent. So you all are just going to have to add a layer of imagination to this story, because Mystic, our detective and hero, he speaks with a Cajun accent. So let your imagination roam free. You ready, Jack? Dead Run. Mystic Fountainot stood under a canvas shelter, stroking Marie's long nose as he watched the rain fall. The mayor was content with the carrick from Mystic and a night off from pulling a vendor's wagon through the streets. Bobigny, Louisiana, was by all measures a small town. Loosely translated to the good outcast, the town grew from the scraps New Orleans discarded. Tucked amid bayous that provided both protection and sustenance, the Margot sisters created a refuge here after New Orleans mayor accused the youngest sister of killing his wife with magic. Voodoo priestesses and witches, the gifted and the touched, drifted away from or were driven out of their homes, and one by one they found their way to the Margot homestead. Homes were built, businesses opened, people fell in love, and, naturally, families blossomed. Mystic, watch commander under the sheriff, was a descendant of that youngest Margot's sister and the wooden soldier she had pulled from the clutches of death. Gerard, Marie's owner, peeked out from under the day-shed roof and studied the sky. The clouds are heavy with water. With no breeze to encourage them to move on, they're tucked in for the night, as we should be. He turned around and began to close up the wagon that was a shop. A night like this promises to be quiet for your line of work, too, eh, Mystic? Middle of the week, middle of the rain, all should be calm. Perhaps this is the message that I should get on the paperwork stacking on my desk. Mystic sighed gloomily. The only thing that Lieutenant Pierre-Luc Fontenot disliked about his job was the paperwork. He often shunted it to his 3 deputies, but even that had its limits. Suddenly, he smiled. I see that gleam in your eye, Mystic. You're up to something. Mystic's pale eyes didn't see as far as they used to, but they'd always seen too much. He rubbed the stubble on his chin, his dark skin leathered from too many days in the sun. His body was still lean and wiry, his long legs still covered distance easily, if not as quickly as they once had. The sheriff approved hiring a civil assistant, one who will do the paperwork I dislike so much. She begins on Monday. He tried to withhold the excitement from his voice, but knew he failed when Gerard laughed. And who is this lucky woman? She is Lux Luminaire's granddaughter, Kelsey. Another lamb returning home, Gerard said as he fastened the door over the arrangement of colorful handmade dolls. It was true that as Bonbonni's families grew, many children left the small community for what promised to be bigger opportunities. And it was just as true that they came back, seeking the acceptance of home. Is she a Lux? Gerard asked. A Lux was local slang for a person capable of opening portals, allowing souls to cross out of this world. The term was derived from the Latin word for light, as the lost were attracted to the Lux, much like a mosquito to a flame. Mystic nodded his head. I understand it is new to her. Gerard understood the subtext behind the statement. Wielding power took practice and patience. Mistakes could be devastating. There's no one to help the young grow into their powers than you, my old friend. He pointed with his chin to the street. We have company. The figure of a woman holding an umbrella ran across the empty town square toward them. Small shadows raced along the ground in her wake. Gerard, Mystic, and Marie watched as the woman approached, lowering her umbrella to step under the now soaked canvas cover. 7 cats flowed in after her, each wearing an expression of unabashed horror at their current state of dishevelment. Lieutenant Fontenot? Her words came on panted breath. I'm Kelsey Luminaire. Deputy Cortez said I would find you here. Mystic doubted it was his dislike of paperwork that summoned the young woman. It is good to meet you in person. This is Marie and Gerard, he said, teasing his friend with the order of introduction. Hello, she said in a rushed courtesy. Lieutenant Fontenot. I am Mystic, he corrected. Mystic, then, she said with increased impatience. I have a problem. My grandfather is away for the night, and, well, she was suddenly uncertain. Someone has come to see him. I see, Mystic said. Let us return to the police station. Good night, Gerard. Bonne nuit, Marie. In the comfortable confines of the sheriff's storefront office, Kelsey Luminaire patted her bare legs dry using a towel provided by Deputy Emmanuel Cortez. Mystic did the same to his damp face as he studied the woman who would work for him in less than a week. In her early 20s, Kelsey Luminaire had the mixed features common in Bonbonni. African, Spanish, French, and Native American melded to create richly colored skin, eyes that appeared brown but were a myriad of colors, and thick brown-black hair that fell in curls. Her aura was nearly a polar opposite. Yellow, very pale and very bright. It was both difficult to behold for its intensity and difficult to turn away from because of its warmth. Luxie, here you are, Emmanuel said as he handed her a mug with tea and honey. This'll warm you. Her eyes lit up. You've been talking to my grandfather. He's the only one who calls me that. Emmanuel glanced at Mystic for guidance. The word was not a name, but a term. The feminine version of Lux, with some liberties taken on the spelling. "It's all right," she said, reading his discomfort and letting him off the hook. "I don't mind." She sipped the tea. "Miss Kelsey," Mystic said, "you did not come out in this wet evening for tea. How may we help you?" She set the teacup on the saucer and took a breath. "A man came to our house this evening. As I said, my grandfather is out of town, but I called him, and he said to find you." "What is so special about this man?" Mystic asked, understanding he would need to draw the story out of the rattled young woman. "Well, it's really hard to explain." A thud on the front door interrupted her. When the sound came a second time, Emmanuel opened it. There stood the soaked figure of a man in a lab coat. His skin was gray and drooping, his eyes milky white, his salt and pepper hair plastered to his head. Kelsey gasped, a hand to her throat as she leapt to her feet. "He's dead!" Dead and confused. The corpse shuffled in, stopping when Emmanuel held a hand to his chest. The deputy hooked a chair with his foot and maneuvered it directly behind their dead visitor. Emmanuel pushed gently back, and the man, familiar to both Mystic and Emmanuel, sat with the formality of nobility. He wore hospital scrubs and a doctor's white coat without shoes or socks. Mystic saw no aura to indicate life had continued. As Kelsey said, this man was dead. Mystic moved into the dead man's line of sight, such as it was. He crouched to put himself on the same level. "You know me," he said. "You were Reginald Couture in life. Those of us fortunate to call you friend knew you as Reggie." The face, with its sunken cheeks and milky eyes, did not react. Kelsey moved to the right, close to the side entrance. "It followed me," she said, looking ready to run. Reggie's head turned toward her, his unseeing eyes locked. Kelsey rubbed her arms as if cold. "He stares at me, not talking. It's so creepy." Mystic saw Kelsey had indeed inherited the Lux talent, but she hadn't grown up with her grandfather. Her aura now was bright with fear. It wasn't uncommon, parents trying to shelter children, hoping talents spared their prodigy. Then when the talents emerged, the teens or young adults were unprepared. For those who did come into power, the learning curve was often steep and wrought with misconceptions, anger, and denial. "What has your grandfather told you?" Mystic asked gently. He had had the unfortunate experience of letting more than one cat out of the bag. Kelsey hesitated. Perhaps she was schooled to keep it within the family. Perhaps she didn't think she would be believed. Perhaps she didn't know what she was. "Do you know what a Lux is?" he said, hoping her family had at least broached the subject with the young woman. She nodded. "A light, a beacon to guide from one world to another. My grandfather is one, and apparently so am I. He talked me into coming here and working for you while he, teaches me." "And so it seems," Mystic said. "Your first lesson comes tonight." Mystic drew himself to full height, his joints protesting the movement. "Come here." She shook her head, shrinking away from the unblinking stare. "What is he? A zombie?" "Not as you mean," Mystic said. "Death is the liberation of the soul, the separation from the physical body. Without the soul, the functions of the body cannot continue, and life ends quickly. The soul continues on to the final reward, or to be born again, or something else. Reggie died 4 days ago from cancer. He was buried by us, his family and friends, 2 evenings ago in the Bombani tradition." Mystic extended his hand to her. "Come, he won't hurt you." She narrowed her eyes. "Have you seen a zombie movie?" Emmanuel chuckled, which earned him her glare. "They got it wrong," he said, clearing his throat. "Reggie is spirit, his soul. He's inside his body, but more like a hand inside of a puppet. He won't eat anything, let alone a person. He went down to one knee next to Reggie. What do you think happened, Mystic? Reggie sat with a straight back, hands on his thighs. Correction. His hand. The left one. His right hand was missing. Emmanuel shifted to screen Kelsey as Mystic lifted the sleeve to see the hand had been removed cleanly at the wrist. Reggie's hair, which he proudly kept through the cancer treatments, was disheveled. A few leaves and twigs poked out of the wet mass. The long doctor's coat covered much of his body, with blue scrubs extending down to mid-calf. The face, coat, and pants were smudged with dirt and grass as though he'd rolled down a hill. His soul did not cross over as it should have, Mystic said for Kelsey's benefit. He was buried over 48 hours ago. How did his body come to be at this Presbyterian hospital? And who is Sanford Elias? Why don't you just ask him? Kelsey suggested snarkily. He can't speak, Emmanuel said patiently. The body isn't breathing, so there's no air to pass through the vocal cords. Of course, she said, dry humor replacing trepidation. Why didn't I think of that? I suppose he doesn't bleed either. He doesn't bleed, but he can link. Emmanuel made a face. It can be messy. Kelsey shouldered, her body language relaxing. That's disgusting. When a soul inhabits a body, as Reggie's has done, Mystic said, it uses its will, pure energy, to move the muscles. Reggie is here, but the body isn't alive. Kelsey's gaze dropped to Reggie's legs and feet, which were swollen with the blood that pooled at the lowest point. His feet are a mess. Emmanuel read from his phone. Presbyterian is a teaching hospital in Shreveport, specializing in rare cancers. Sanford Elias is the head of clinician education. His chin came up. Mystic, it's at least a 2-hour drive. To walk here would have taken well over a day. He walked all that way? To reach my grandfather? Sympathy not only filled Kelsey's voice, it permeated the fear that surrounded her. Cautiously, she circled the room, careful to keep a desk always between her and Reggie. His eyes followed her every step. Can he see me? No, that would take brain functions. But he's tracking me somehow. To reach you, Mystic used the truth to infuse her with confidence. His soul is attracted to your light, so he faces you. He followed you here, did he not? Yes, but why come here to Bombini? Why not just go? She fluttered her hand up. Wherever he is going. Could something stop him? That happens on rare occasions, Mystic said. The soul is trapped in the world, but the body remained below ground. You're describing a ghost, she said. Reggie's soul reconnected with his body. Doesn't that mean his body had to be, well, unburied? It does. Perhaps that is why he came back to Bobigny. Mystic mentally constructed a timetable from the funeral to Kelsey's arrival. Emmanuel, his body had to have left the earth within hours of being put there. It had to have been driven to Shreveport to return when it did. He couldn't have left the grave on his own, Emmanuel pointed out. Caskets are sealed. What are we looking at? Body snatching? Grave robbing? Kelsey planted her palms on the desk and leaned over to better see.
I wonder if it's body snatching.
I told you it was body snatching.
If it could be.
Just because Emmanuel didn't know didn't mean you don't.
Body snatching, that's my guess. Put it in.
Poor soul. You came to us so we would bring Mystic. Her voice was gentle, as if speaking to a wounded animal. Curiosity and compassion had pushed their way to the front. You came here so we could find out what happened to your body and make it right. Transfixed, Reggie slowly nodded, as if he had heard her. Kelsey startled at the response. We're going to do it, right? So he can go? Oui, Mystic said. Emmanuel and I will begin the investigation. You must escort Reggie back to your home and stay with him. By myself? She asked, her voice an octave higher. Father Amon will assist you. Emmanuel, he said, with a nod to the door. The deputy slipped into Mystic's office and picked up the phone. Father Eamon will go with you back to your grandfather's house. He will take care of Reggie's body while you take care of his soul. I beg you to stay there. Anywhere you go, Reggie will follow.
Very funeralistic.
That is very funeralistic.
That was too awesome for this story.
You like my take on
awe-inducing.
You like my take on a zombie?
Your zombie is terrifying and how mundane it is. That's not a zombie. That's Greg. It's Greg from The Office.
It's Reggie.
Yeah, well, okay. It's Reggie from The Office.
Yeah.
I knew his name wasn't Greg. It was the point I was trying to make. Yeah, it's just a regular old guy. That's just Terry, Toby, Greg.
Yeah.
Melinda. It's just your average Joseph.
Or at least everybody doesn't have to run up to the second floor or wear leather so the zombies don't eat them.
Yeah. Instead, they just follow you.
They just follow you.
That's actually more terrifying. They can just sense your aura, so they just follow you, man.
They just follow you.
You can't escape them. They sense you. Your being. Your life force. Jeez, that is terrifying.
Sorry, little cough there. Dead Whispers. Father Raymond left the sheriff's office with Kelsey on his arm and Reggie trailing obediently behind. Then Mystic and Emmanuel locked the door and went to Bobigny's only cemetery. The land was donated by his ancestors, who were among the first buried in the hallowed ground. In many areas of Louisiana, the high groundwater limited ground burials, forcing many interments to be at or above ground. Bobigny, as always, was different. Here the ground welcomed her people, using the elements as protection. It was one of the reasons the local tradition did not embalm the dead. Having been present at the funeral, Mystic and Emmanuel knew exactly where Reggie had been buried. But rather than take the most direct path, they walked in silence, following a spiral pattern that encompassed the grave and those around it. As they walked, Emmanuel listened. The heavy rain had stopped, but the ground was soft, grabbing their boots with every step. Reggie was loved, Emmanuel said. The people were sad he passed over so young. Emphysema stole his breath, Mystic said, and then his life. Do you hear anything that would benefit us? Emmanuel sighed heavily. He removed his hat and scratched his head. This was difficult. It's hard to hear anything over the crying. Hearing past conversations was one thing, interpreting was another. Mystic knew his deputy worried the snippets of conversations he heard would be taken out of context. Emmanuel, tell me what you can, he said to his deputy. Trust me to use your knowledge wisely. I trust you, Mystic. It's just hard separating individual threads. It's like the conversations are a big knot. His wife, she cursed Reggie more than once. Emmanuel shook his head. The pair ended their route near a square hole at the head end of the casket. The dirt had been mounded up on the opposite side, though the rain had carried some back in. Careful of the loose soil, both men leaned over, hats in their hands as they examined the hole. The casket had been badly damaged, the top section smashed into shards of polished wood. The royal blue satin lining was visible beyond the rain, mud, and debris. The body was stolen, much like in the early days. Mystic placed his hat back on his head. The body snatchers would dig in the soft ground over the head and shoulders very quickly. They would open the caskets by any means they could, then snare the body under the arms with rope and pull it out. There was no elegance to the crime, just brute strength. What can you hear? Emmanuel methodically stepped around Mystic to stand on the matted grass where the headstone would be. He cocked his head, frowning as he listened to the voices only he could hear. Mystic was patient. Two men. One stood where I am, and he talked a lot, giving orders, asking questions. His accent isn't local, but southern, polished. The other man grunted or gave one or two word answers. I can't get enough to tell where he's from. Wait, there's a third. Emmanuel stared into the hole and then frowned. The diggers, They know about my talent. The talker was about to call them out by name, but the third man swore and cut him off. Very good, Emmanuel. That gives us a starting point. 3 men, 2 know what they're doing, and the one that likely hired them. Anything else? I think the man who hired them wasn't expecting the diggers to take the body. Emmanuel stepped away from the oaken grave. He didn't say anything specific, but he sounded surprised. The diggers told the man to shut up, and they left with Reggie. No more conversation, at least not around here. Mystic nodded. Walk the parking lots to see if you can pick up the conversation. They put Reggie's body in a vehicle, likely it was nearby. Then concentrate on the diggers. I'm going to visit the widow. Dead alone. Mystic approached the house draped in mourning. What are you doing?
What? What?
You keep bending that. Mystic approached the house draped in mourning with his head bowed in respect. I shouldn't be laughing when I'm talking about somebody's head being bowed in respect, by the way. We're just going to be quiet for a minute and let Jack play.
No, this is my song. This is my background.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. That is pretty bad, isn't it? I'll make it normal.
Dead alone. Mystic approached the house draped in mourning with his head bowed in respect. Tradition in Beaubeny had mourning continuing until the next new moon, regardless of how many nights that was. The front door was swathed with yellow silk to celebrate life. Flowers lined the walkway, vibrant colors spilling over onto the brick. Small tokens covered the stairs, allowing a narrow path for climbing. Cece, the owner of a blues club, sat on the porch playing an acoustic guitar. Mystic recognized the piece as one penned by Mozart. As with most in Beaubeny, Reggie Couture had a gift. His was a talent for fortune. He had worked hard and made good decisions that took the small perfume business his grandparents started to the Paris jet set. He knocked rather softly, then ringing the bell. It was answered by one of the women who worked for Cece. Good evening, she said, opening the door wide. Have you come to call? He nodded. In a manner, I need to see Madame Couture. Oh, she's in the parlor. I was just making her a cup of coffee. Would you like one? Mystic smiled, despite the weight of the moment. I would be most grateful. When she turned to the kitchen, he entered the parlor. It was a rare mix of southern hospitality and raging greenhouse. Heidi Stein Couture sat in the corner of her couch, legs curled under her. She looked out the picture window to where Cece sat, listening to the solo guitar as she absently stroked the leaf of a vine stretched across the windowsill. She portrayed the image of the grieving wife, but her aura painted a different picture. In all the years he'd known her, Heidi's aura radiated love and contentment. Those colors were gone, replaced by a very turbulent anger. He stepped in, and the floor squeaked. She turned. Oh, thank you. Mystic, I didn't realize you were here. She began to rise. No, madame. Please do not get up. When she subsided, Mystic sat in the nearby chair to avoid looming over her. A thing has happened. She pulled her arms tight to her chest. What thing? Mystic spoke gently. Reggie's body was removed from the grave before he crossed over. He returned it to Beaubeny. Her face tightened until it did match her aura. That's ridiculous. Perhaps, Mystic said. We are just beginning to investigate. I promise to share answers when I have them. But I have questions for you that need answers. Are you able? Heidi Couture untucked her legs and folded her hands on her lap. What can I tell you? Was Reggie buried with anything of value? Heidi fumed as Mozart gently wafted in. He wore his favorite suit. It was handmade for him and worth well over $500. The cufflinks, they were his father's. I expect the sapphires and gold were genuine, but we never had them appraised. It didn't matter. She rattled off the list as if they were groceries. He wore the watch I gave him for our 30th wedding anniversary, and his friends filled the casket with their tokens. I have no idea if something of value was amidst those. Mystic himself had contributed a polished rock from his family's plantation. Its value was belied by the grave facade. When they brought the casket up and opened it, they would learn if the body was the only thing stolen in the night. Did Reggie have any enemies? She pulled back, her brows fusing together. Enemies who would steal his body? For what? She bit off the words as if bitter. Reggie was a good businessman, but he wasn't perfect. There were those who didn't agree with him when he bought the Chantilly farm to expand the business. But nothing was serious enough to justify stealing his body. While Mystic saw auras, he had no insight into the reasons behind the emotions. What is to come of the business? The name Couture is renowned around the world, as I understand. Will you or your children take over? No, it was Reggie's passion. Our children are happy in the careers they've chosen. And, she dropped her voice, I have no interest in babysitting a bunch of phony vice presidents. Reggie sold the company to Yves Saint Laurent Corporation. We established trust for me and our children to provide for us for the rest of our lives. He wouldn't sign the contract until YSL agreed that the factory stay in Bonbeni in perpetuity. He wasn't going to let an acquisition disband his workforce. The news was welcome. Bonbeni was a small community and jobs were not abundant. Couture was one of the largest employers in the parish. Reggie cared about his people, Mystic said. Did you notice anyone who seemed overly interested in his body during the viewing? Over half the town and all the employees were there, she said in a clipped manner. Hundreds of people. Everyone was interested in Reggie. He was the center of attention, just like he had to be. Footsteps on the hardwood floor announced a newcomer. Sebastian Stein shared his sister's eyes. He dressed in a summer suit, his hair styled, and air scented with cologne. He made for a pretty picture, but his aura hadn't changed from the first meeting years ago. It was dark, brooding, in complete contrast with his outward appearance. Mystic, he said, all but tripping over the threshold. His eyes glanced to his angry sister. Welcome to our home. It's been wonderful to have so many family and friends stopping by with condolences and little gifts. The last word hung in the air as if a cue. It was Heidi who answered. Someone stole Reggie's body out of the grave, Sebastian. Her voice broke. Can you make me a drink? Sebastian went across the room to the wet bar. I am stunned, absolutely stunned. Do you know who did it? Ice tinkled against glass. I can't believe it was one of his friends. Everyone seemed so generally broken up that the cancer was terminal. We had a parade through the house for the last month. You are living here, Monsieur Stein? Well, temporarily. He looked over his shoulder at Mystic. I couldn't leave my little sister to handle everything alone. Sebastian turned back to the bar. What with this big house, the business, and Reggie's other investments, someone had to make sure all those pennies were getting into the piggy bank. Here you are, sis. This'll help. He handed her a rocks glass filled with ice and a pretty amber liquid. Mystic made note of the social faux pas. Sebastian should have offered his guest first. Are you qualified to assist with the pennies and the piggies? The young lady entered with the coffee service. She stopped short when she saw the drink in Heidi's hand, then came all the way in and poured for Mystic. Mystic lifted his gaze to Sebastian, who said quickly, I'm not a coffee drinker. He lifted a glass similar to his sister's. I prefer my cups glass and my whiskey iced. As to whether I'm qualified to assist in the disposition of my dear brother-in-law's estate, my answer is absolutely. Until last year, I ran my own company, Stein Entertainment. I was into carnivals. Sebastian sat in the Queen Anne chair and crossed his ankle on his knee. Why, I traveled this great country of ours, from Snoqualmie Falls to Sarasota, from El Paso to Buffalo. No town was too small for my band. Heidi sipped her drink, then set it aside. They were quite good. you have folded the company? Mystic sipped the spiced coffee, not at all surprised to find it was exactly to his liking. Sebastian planted his feet, insult radiating. Of course not. He eased back into his chair. We're just on a little hiatus. Heidi, love, sip a little more. He handed the glass back to his sister. It'll steady your nerves. She frowned, but did as her brother said. Mystic watched the interplay between the two. I understood that you were the older sibling, Heidi. I am, she said, again trying to set the glass down. Sebastian intercepted her hand, encouraging her to drink again. I was not talking about age, Mystic, but responsibility. I'm sure every brother feels it is their duty to care for their sister, especially in their time of need. When Heidi drank healthily, Sebastian subsided into his chair. Do you have a sister? No, my family. Well, then you couldn't understand, Sebastian bowled over Mystic's answer. You see, when you see a young girl shining and bright with innocence, you can't help wanting to keep that kind of light in the world. She's a treasure. And treasures are to be guarded. Mystic studied Heidi Couture. Her anger was subsiding, yielding to exhaustion. It was time he left. He drank more of the coffee, out of respect, and then rose. Heidi, Reggie is at Lux's home with Father Eamon. I'm sure both would like to see you. Both? Sebastian's head whipped to Mystic. What does that mean? He's dead. Sebastian, I told you, life is different in Bombini. Heidi closed her eyes, pressing the glass to his forehead. I'm not sure I can do that, Mystic. Mystic saw the turmoil increase, and the reason had something to do with Reggie. Father Eamon undoubtedly will want to talk to you about the arrangements. I may ask to delay a bit in the event Reggie can help us reveal the scheme at work here. Heidi stood, her hand out to Mystic. You are Reggie's friend in life. It's good to know you're his friend in death, too. Mystic took her hand, bowing to kiss the back. I am your friend, too. Call upon me, day or night. The dead doctor. The clock was closing in on midday as Mystic sat patiently in the modest padded chair, awaiting the arrival of Dr. Sanford Elias. His office was on the 4th floor in the lecture wing of a teaching hospital. People were constantly coming and going on this working day. Doctors in their white coats matching the one Reggie wore. Students in identically cut coats, but with a light blue tint. The professional staff in their mix of carefully selected, coordinated outfits designed to inspire confidence. Excuse me, sir, but are you in need of medical help? This was the 3rd time one of the young doctors had stopped to inquire of his need. Mystic smiled broadly. I appreciate your interest, but I am here on business. He dipped his chin down, drawing the doctor's attention to his uniform. I am waiting for Dr. Elias. The doctor straightened, the look on his face still questioning Mystic's medical state. Our class just finished. I'm sure he'll be up here soon. Mystic rose with the quickness and surety of a younger man. Have you studied under Dr. Elias for long? The doctor assessed the movement and was only more perplexed by the contradiction between appearance and athleticism. This is my 2nd year under him. No one is better for gross morphology of humans. Everyone wants his class, and his students are the most in demand for residency programs. Here he is now. The man coming up the hallway had the barrel chest of a bear and a handlebar mustache of impressive size. Notably, the coat he wore with his name stitched over the breast was dark blue. His aura showed intelligence, competence underwritten by frustration. He also, without a doubt, had a talent. His ability to, quote, see inside bodies drove his competence. Dr. Elias, the student said, drawing his teacher's attention, this police officer has been waiting for you. Elias's gaze swept over Mystic head to toe. His head tilted like a dog trying to puzzle out something of interest. "Oh, thank you," he said to the young doctor, dismissing him. "Dr. Sanford Elias." "Lieutenant Pierre-Luc Fontenot. I am with the sheriff's office in Bonbonnie." "Bonbonnie? Oh, you've come some way. Let's talk in my office." Elias led the way down the corridor to the pretty corner office with windows on two sides, overlooking the landscaped hospital grounds. "A pretty view," Mystic said. "The only building this tall in Bonbonnie is the church bell tower. It overlooks the town square, which is beautiful in its own way. Have you ever been to Bonbonnie?" "When I was a child," Elias said as he sat behind his desk. "My grandmother lived there, Patrice Morningstar." Mystic smiled broadly at the name of the woman who doctored all of Bonbonnie in his younger years. "I knew your grandmother. She was loved and respected by all who knew her. You must have inherited her love of healing people." Elias stilled, withdrawing as if to protect himself. "Yes, well, she was my inspiration. What brings you to Shreveport? I'm sure it's not the traffic." Mystic left the windows for the guest chair. "Your coat. It is blue, not the white of the others. Does it signify your position as the head of the department?" Elias grunted as he looked down with distaste at his coat. "It is because I am the butt of a practical joke. My coat and pants were stolen from my lab. My assistant says to let it go. The students study hard and to give them their little pranks. It's important for them to keep their morale up. She ordered a new coat, but until it arrives, I'm using this one she found in the back of a closet." Mystic read him as he spoke. His aura indicated annoyance, but not guilt or similar. "When did the coat and pants go missing?" 2 nights ago. I threw my scrubs in the laundry and hung the coat up on my usual hook. A fresh set of scrubs was already hanging there. Next morning, there was only the shirt." Pieces were coming together for Mystic. "Was it standard for you to hang your coat there?" "No, I usually leave it in my office. But I had an early morning dentist appointment and knew I'd be walking in just in time for class. I thought it would save time by leaving it in the lab. Obviously, I was wrong." Elias' irritation grew with the retelling. "Why do you care about my damn coat? Why are you here?" Mystic met the impatience with calm. "A body was found in Bonbonnie. It wore your jacket and pants." "It what?" Elias planted his elbows on his desk and leaned in. "How the hell did that happen?" "That is what I am figuring out. Tell me, where do you get your cadavers?" Guilt now bled into Elias's aura, while the man himself stayed composed. "The hospital has a strong body donation program. It largely meets my needs." There was only truth in that statement, and yet there was room for equivocation. "There must be a circumstance," Mystic said, "where you desire to teach on a certain condition that are not present in the cadavers. Where do you turn to then?" He chose his word carefully, giving Elias the choice to tell the truth or to lie. Elias debated his answer internally, and he opted for the truth. "I have a connection, a procurer, you might say." "And do you know where this procurer comes of the cadavers?" "I do not," Elias said definitively. "It is a business arrangement, supplier to buyer." When he offered no other detail, Mystic asked, "Did you recently arrange to acquire a body that died of emphysema?" Elias swallowed hard. He held himself rigid against the back of his leather chair, his hands curled into fists. "I did, but the body has not been delivered." Mystic knew it had been. Reggie had to have been in the lab when his soul reclaimed the body, but Elias was truthful in denying the delivery. "Explain your arrangement for delivery." For the first time, Elias really hesitated. He knew what he was participating in was illegal, as much as he wanted to whitewash it with business. "My supplier would deliver the cadavers directly to the lab." "After hours?" Mystic prompted. "Often, yes. I indicated the drawer or table where it was to be left, and they took over from there." Elias left much out of his answer, like how the supplier would access the controlled building. Give me the name and contact information for your supplier, Mystic ordered. Well, I don't have a name, not a real one. I call him Digger. He opened the contacts in his phone and slid it across the desk. Mystic read the phone number, which had an area code that included Bombini. He passed on to Emmanuel via text the information and then returned the phone. Now, I would like to see the lab. Why? Elias asked. The body was never delivered. It was, Doctor. How else could it have had your coat and pants? Mystic rose. The lab, s'il vous plaît. Cornered, uncertain, Elias rose. All right, if that's what you want. Mystic's phone rang. It was Emmanuel. One moment, Doctor. Mystic stepped to the windows. Yes, Emmanuel? Reggie's gone, he panted, out of breath. He's been body napped. I'm on my way. Mystic ended the call and turned, nearly colliding with the doctor. Reggie? Elias repeated. Is that my body? I'm coming with you. All right, so we are going to pause here and come back in 2 weeks to finish the story and the deliberation.
Yes, it's a real cliffhanger today, folks.
Yep.
So who do I think the killer is? Well,
there is no killer. This is anything but murder.
Who do I think the snatcher is? Well, I think it's probably, I highly doubt we've met the person. So in that case, it is either the weird brother guy. He's odd, but I don't think he's the bad guy. I think you just wrote him to be odd because you like to do that. I think it's the character we haven't met yet. I'm going to name him Jimmy Bob McPhil.
Okay, so ultimately when we get to the deliberation, there are 4 suspects, and you are correct. We have not met 2 of them yet. So I will preview by saying we have the widow, Heidi Stein-Couture, who's angry about something.
Yes, about something.
Her brother, Sebastian Stein, who's at least a little sleazy, although I just put Heidi's younger brother.
Yeah, he's an odd guy. Don't list the other 2. We don't get to know about Juan.
We don't get to know about them?
No.
Okay.
You have to read on. So in 2 weeks, you'll get to meet Juan and the secret 4th person, whose name I won't reveal.
All right, then. We are going to wrap up this episode of Mysteries to Die For. So support our show by subscribing, telling a mystery lover about us, giving us a 5-star review. Check out our website, m2d4podcast.com, our Instagram, at Mysteries to Die For, spelled out, and our Facebook page, at M2D4Podcast. The anthology for the second half of the season is going to release in early October. Add it to your Christmas, Hanukkah, and your to-be-read list. Mysteries to Die For is hosted by TG Wolff and Jack Wolff. Have You Seen This Body was written by TG Wolff. Music and production are by Jack Wolff. Episode art is by TG Wolff. So join us next week for a toe tag, which as you all know is the first chapter from a fresh release in the mystery crime or thriller genre, and then come back here in 2 weeks for the second half of today's story. Have you seen this body? All right, Jack, take us out.